Discover the incredible moment when a millionaire mocked a delivery girl, then everything changed. Emily adjusted her cap as she parked her beat-up bike in front of the sprawling Carter estate. The mansion loomed above her like a fortress, splendid yet taunting. As she approached the grand entrance with the package in hand, her heart raced. Delivering here usually meant navigating more than just steep driveways and manicured gardens. Here, she faced the chilling stares of wealth. But today, deep down, she felt a flicker of determination. She was not just a delivery girl, she was a daughter, a sister, and a dreamer. Delivery. She called, trying to sound as confident as possible. The door swung open, and there stood James Carter, every bit the self-made millionaire. His icy blue gaze flicked to the package. Seriously? A delivery girl? He scoffed, his voice dripping with disdain. You know there are better jobs out there, right? The words jabbed at Emily like a knife. Her stomach tightened, and tears prickled at her eyes. Did he really think so little of her? Each day, she balanced classes, worked late shifts, and took care of her younger brother while her mom worked double shifts just to keep food on the table. The very thought of having to justify her existence to some rich guy twisted her gut. But as she turned to leave, embarrassment still burning her cheeks, that mocking smirk only stoked the fire inside. She couldn't let his sneer define her. You don't know me, she whispered, determination swirling in her chest. The next day, she discovered a community service competition. The prize? A scholarship that could guide her to her college dream and lift her family out of this cycle of struggle. Inspired, Emily knew what she had to do. She organized a charity event to help a local veterans organization, hoping to unite the town and raise money. With every flyer she hung, every neighbor she spoke to, a buzz of unity began to fill Maplewood. At the local coffee shop, the air was thick with excitement. Tables filled with volunteers, laughter mixing with the clinks of cups. Emily felt a warmth she hadn't known in a long time. These were her people, working together for something bigger. Yet beneath that warmth, a weight lingered. What if it all fell apart? Days before the event, the venue cancelled, and her heart plummeted. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when she felt the world crashing down around her, an unexpected ally surfaced. James Carter had a secret passion for supporting veterans, and in a surprising twist, he decided to back her event, albeit quietly. His presence was a mix of hope and dread, igniting both excitement and uncertainty in Emily. As the sun began to set on the day of the event, the community buzzed with energy. Emily stood on that stage, proud and nervous. Would James truly support her cause, or was this just another chance for him to belittle her? As the crowd cheered, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Would this be the day she found her path, or would it all crumble under the weight of their differences? Emily felt the heaviness of the moment pressing down on her. The crowd's cheers enveloped her, but behind that facade of support, a cacophony of doubts rattled within. She stole a glance at James, standing among the onlookers with a bemused look on his face. He hadn't left after all, and somehow, that made her both anxious and hopeful. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her voice wavering slightly. We're here to support our veterans, men and women who fought for our freedom, our community and each of us. Her heart raced as she watched them nodding, their faces eager, and some even proud. James's eyes held her gaze. They were still icy, but now, there was something else. Interest. Challenge? She pushed through her nervousness, recalling all her late nights planning for this event. As she spoke about the soldiers and their sacrifices, she saw a mix of emotions wash over the crowd. They were starting to connect, and for a moment, the barriers of class and wealth faded. The longing for community forged a collective warmth, and Emily felt an energy flowing back to her. But then, a voice called out from the back. "What do you know about veterans, delivery girl?" It was a rich voice laced with mockery, and it sent a shiver through the air. Emily's stomach knotted again, but this time, she was ready. "I know that they deserve to be heard and supported," she shot back, her voice gaining strength. "My father was one of them. He is not here tonight, but I carry his lessons with me every day." A hushed silence fell over the crowd. Glancing towards James, she noticed a flicker of respect in his expression. The spotlight was on her now, a surge of raw honesty propelling her forward. This was more than just a competition, this was her chance to advocate for those who couldn't. The past few months had hardened her resolve, and with each word, she breathed life into her mission. "Let us raise our voices together. Just because we come from different backgrounds doesn't mean we can't unite for a common cause." Her passion ignited a ripple of applause. Yet doubt still lingered in her mind. Was she convincing enough? The clinking glasses and murmurs grew louder, her heart pounded as anticipation hung in the air. At last, she concluded, "Let us show our veterans how much we care. Together, we can make a difference." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers mingling with laughter, and Emily felt tears welling up as she absorbed their support. But just then, from the back of the stage, a familiar figure stepped forward. "James. Wait!" he called out, commanding everyone's attention. "I have something to say." Emily's heart raced faster than before. What was he planning? Would he scorn her public declaration? Would he mock her in front of everyone again, or was he about to reveal a different story? As he walked closer, a hush fell over the crowd. Suspense thickened the air, and for all her earlier highs, Emily now stood on a precipice, her breath caught, waiting for James's words to change everything once more. James stood there for a moment, surveying the crowd like a general before a battle. Each face reflected a different expectation, and Emily felt each gaze weighing down on her. She instinctively clenched her fists, her heart pounding against her ribs. What was he doing? As the silence stretched, James finally broke it. "I want to apologize," he said, his voice steady and clear, surprising her. "For what I said before, and for doubting not only Emily but also this cause." Gasps rippled through the audience, confusion washing over their faces. Emily's own heart fluttered between disbelief and hope. Was he actually admitting he was wrong? As he continued, his demeanor shifted, and she could almost see the walls he had built around himself start to crumble. "I come from a wealthy family," James explained, gesturing subtly to the opulence surrounding them. "I've always had the privilege of distance from hardship. But standing here tonight, listening to Emily speak about her father and the sacrifices made, it hit me. I can't keep ignoring the very real world beyond my comfortable life." With every word, the atmosphere began to change. People leaned in, hungry for more. Emily's heart soared. It was as if James was not just validating her feelings but also bringing new light to their cause. "Veterans deserve more than our applause," he continued, eyes glimmering with realization. "They need support, respect, and recognition that goes beyond a single night of celebration." The crowd whispered among themselves, gathering momentum, and she could feel that shared spark igniting within them. James took another step closer, his voice softening. "I haven't earned the right to criticize anyone, Emily included. But I want to change that. I want to help you." A wave of disbelief swept through Emily. Help? What did that even mean? Was he offering financial aid or was he pledging to join her fight? The uncertainty made her breath hitch, casting a shadow over her earlier triumph. Before she could gather her thoughts, James launched into a passionate plea, outlining proposals for fundraising efforts, community outreach, and ways to honor veterans year-round. Emily's mind raced. The more he spoke, the more her own aspirations, once clouded by doubt, began to crystallize into something tangible and real. The applause grew louder, and Emily felt her entire being resonate with the crowd's energy. They were eager, they were engaged, and it felt as though hope was beginning to weave its threads through the air. "Let us not stop here," James added, "let us work together. As a community." He turned to Emily, a newfound respect shining in his eyes. "Let me support you. Let me learn." Emily's cheeks flushed, caught off guard by the warmth of his gaze. The crowd erupted in cheers again, high-fiving one another, filled with purpose. She was overwhelmed, riding the tide of excitement and uncertainty. Could she truly accept his help? Would it change everything she stood for? With her heart racing, Emily nodded, knowing this was just the beginning of something monumental. But lingering questions spun around her mind. Was this a genuine offer or just an impulse fueled by guilt? And could she trust him, after all? The room pulsed with eagerness, but Emily stood at a crossroads, grappling with her next step. Her gaze caught James's, and in his eyes, she saw a challenge, an open door. Could this volatile partnership lead them to something extraordinary, or would it fray under the weight of skepticism? As the cheers around her echoed in her ears, Emily felt a swell of emotions crash over her. The anticipation in the room transformed into a pulsating energy that begged for action. She could see people clapping and shouting, but her focus narrowed onto James. He was no longer just a wealthy stranger, he stood there as an ally, a potential partner in her mission. She took a deep breath, the weight of responsibility pressing against her chest. "Okay, James," she finally said, her voice cutting through the din, "if we do this, we need to make it count. This isn't just about money. It's about changing lives." The laughter and excitement transitioned into a tense silence, each pair of eyes now locked onto her. It was a moment suspended in time, and she could feel the burden of their hopes resting on her shoulders. James nodded, determination flickering within his gaze. "Absolutely. We can create programs that really help veterans reintegrate into society. We can provide them with jobs, training, and mental health resources." His passion reverberated through the crowd, sparking a feeling of unity that rippled through the air. But Emily's heart stumbled. Programs? Initiatives? That all sounded great, but the reality was stark and complex. That's all wonderful, but there's more to it. It's one thing to have a plan, and another to ensure it reaches the right people. "We'll involve the veterans in this, we have to," James interjected, his eyes bright, each word steeped in earnestness. "They should guide us. It's crucial that their voices are heard." Emily smiled slightly, feeling a flicker of hope ignite. Perhaps this partnership could be the bridge between what she dreamed for and the people who truly needed support. But there was still uncertainty. Could someone like James really understand the struggles, the depth of pain, and the history woven into the lives of these veterans? The crowd murmured again, their whispers expressing excitement and skepticism in equal measure. She caught snippets of their conversations. Can he really help? Will he stick around when the going gets tough? The questions echoed her own internal conflict. Before she could voice her doubts, she saw a woman near the front, hand raised and a determined look on her face. "What about accountability?" the woman challenged, eyes narrow. "How can we trust that this money will actually go where it's needed?" James's expression shifted, composure evident as he addressed the crowd. "I understand your concerns. We'll establish transparent processes. I'll show you every step of the way. Let us create a committee of veterans and community leaders to ensure our efforts are on track." Emily studied his face, searching for any sign of insincerity. But all she saw was a man ready to change. Could it be possible that he was serious? The fear was still there, but she felt a thread of hope weaving through it. The energy in the room surged again, a mix of skepticism mixing with cautious optimism. People leaned in closer, the invitation to become part of something bigger palpable in the air. Emily knew they were on the edge of a breakthrough. But her thoughts were still swirling, as she turned back to James. "Can you really handle this?" she asked quietly. "Because it's not just a passion project. It's life or death for some of these people." He met her gaze firmly, determination burning bright. "I'm ready, Emily. I swear. This is just as important to me now as it is to you." Inside, a flicker of resolve grew stronger. But deep down, she knew they were about to step into uncharted territory. The risks loomed large, but so did the possibilities. As the crowd erupted in renewed applause around them, Emily felt a strange mix of excitement and trepidation. This was just the beginning, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that the path ahead would test not only their partnership but her trust. Would they rise together to make an impact in the world they believed in, or would the weight of promises and the pressure to succeed unravel them both? The applause continued, a rolling wave of hope washing over Emily. She could feel her heart racing not just from the excitement of the crowd, but also from the gravity of what lay ahead. James turned to her, a slight smile growing on his lips. It was a moment of connection, a silent understanding that they were in this together. "Let us start small," he suggested, his voice steady and encouraging. "How about we host a community meeting? Gather veterans to hear their stories, their needs, and how we can help. They deserve to lead the charge in this." Emily nodded, appreciating his willingness to listen. But doubt crept back in. What if they don't trust us? What if they see us as just another pair of outsiders trying to fix things? James's eyes narrowed, filled with determination. "Trust isn't given, it's earned. We'll have to show them we're genuine. It starts with transparency, sharing our plans, being open about our intentions. We can't shy away from difficult conversations." His confidence was infectious, yet Emily still felt the chill of apprehension. They were treading into a space where emotions ran deep. The stories of loss, trauma, and hardship echoed in her mind. She wondered if they could truly handle the weight of those experiences. As they began to outline the community meeting, the excitement began to reignite within her. People clustered around them, brainstorming ideas, asking questions. The energy morphed into something tangible, something alive. Emily was reminded of why she had started this mission. It was not just for the veterans, it was for the families, the communities, the shared humanity. "By sharing real stories, we can build a connection," she declared, her voice rising above the growing chatter. "We let their voices be heard, and in turn, we learn how best to support them." A man not far from her, rugged and worn, folded his arms. "You've got passion. But you better have more than that. This isn't easy work." She caught his gaze, sincere and searching. "I promise you this isn't just a fleeting idea. We'll pour our hearts into it. I've seen what veterans go through. I know how tough it is to find support after returning home." An elderly woman, her face lined with years of trials, leaned forward. "You think you can change things? You think you can break the cycle?" The weight of her words struck deep. Emily felt an urgency in her chest. "We have to try. If we don't, who will? It's about finding strength in each other." The crowd started to murmur again, shifting from skepticism to a glimmer of hope. James was leaning against the wall, nodding at her. This was their moment. The realization that they could work together lifted some of the burdens. After discussing potential dates for the community meeting, Emily felt lighter. There was a plan. There was a purpose. But as they wrapped up the gathering, a reminder echoed in her mind: success wouldn't come easy. James caught her eye as the last few people trickled out. "You did well today, Emily. They needed to see your fire." "Thank you," she replied, though her heart still felt conflicted. "But this is just the beginning. What if we run into challenges, heavy challenges?" He locked his gaze on hers, steady and unwavering. "Then we face them together. This isn't just about getting it right, it's about finding strength in the struggle." With those words, Emily felt a flicker of courage pushing her doubts aside. Maybe this was where change began, not just in the lives they aimed to touch but also within themselves. They parted ways that evening, Emily leaving with a growing resolve. Yet, as she strolled home, doubts loomed like dark clouds. Was it enough to start with good intentions? Could they genuinely make meaningful connections? The night air was thick with uncertainty, a reminder of the hurdles that lay ahead. But the question remained, how far would they be willing to go to confront the shadows of the past? Emily's sleep that night was fitful, her dreams filled with shadows of faces, some of them smiling, others hardened by life's tribulations. She rose early, the sun barely peeking over the horizon, casting a soft glow that framed her small kitchen. The mug of coffee in her hands warmed her, but the thoughts swirling in her head brought chills. After all their optimism, the reality of what lay ahead started to settle like a weight on her chest. How would they even begin to discuss trauma and loss? Her heart raced thinking about the first meeting. She knew they could gather stories, but would anyone share their truth? With determination, she grabbed her laptop and began drafting an agenda for the community meeting. As the words flowed, she felt a sense of clarity emerge. They would focus on creating a safe space, a place where veterans could speak freely without judgment. Emily imagined it, chairs in a circle, sharing coffee, soft music in the background. An atmosphere of healing. Then a knock at the door startled her. It was James, a friendly smile on his face. He looked rested and energized. "I brought breakfast," he said, holding up a bag from the bakery down the street. The aroma wafted through the air, pulling her from her anxious thoughts. "I needed the pick-me-up," she confessed as they sat at the small table. While they ate, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she'd be tested soon. "Do you really think the veterans will trust us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. James paused, his gaze thoughtful. "You know what? It doesn't hurt to start with honesty. We've both seen the struggles firsthand. We can talk about our reasons, share why we care." They discussed their personal connections to the military and the challenges faced. James shared stories of his uncle who had served. Emily told of a friend who still fought her battles long after returning home. Those stories brought them closer, their personal histories merging into the larger cause. Connecting with them on a personal level could build bridges, Emily concluded, hopeful. Just as they finished their breakfast, Emily's phone buzzed. It was a message from a local veterans organization. They were interested in attending the meeting. A wave of excitement jabbed at her. This was real, maybe they could make it happen. "Do you think we should invite someone prominent? Like a previous service member who has had a successful transition to civilian life?" James suggested. A great idea, she thought, but the weight of that decision weighed heavily. Would they overshadow the voices of those struggling? They spent the next few hours drafting invitations and solidifying the details. Time slipped by like the warm sunlight streaming through the window, and with each word, the anxiety began to fade. She could do this. But as the day wore on, Emily felt that familiar chill creeping back. Doubts whispered reminders of potential failure. Would the veterans really share their truths? "Emily," James said, breaking her train of thought. "Whatever happens, remember, it's about showing up for them. We can't change the world in a day, but we take one step at a time. Our presence, our patience, it means something." His words struck her. Perhaps it wasn't the results that mattered, but the journey they were embarking on together. As the sun set, casting shadows in her living room, Emily felt a stirring sense of anticipation. She was nervous about the upcoming meeting but also excited about the possibilities. Would this be the moment that ignited real change? Would they finally bridge the gap between their intentions and the reality of shared experiences? With a deep breath, she looked at the invitation draft strewn across the table. They had a chance, and she was ready. The real test loomed right around the corner. What truths awaited under the surface, waiting to be uncovered? What stories were about to emerge? Emily awoke the next morning to a bright and clear sky, its cheerful hue failing to mask the knots twisting in her stomach. Today was the day. Today was the meeting. She remembered James's words about showing up and tried to hold on to that hope, but self-doubt clawed at her. Would they really connect with these veterans? Could they create the environment they envisioned? With each sip of coffee, her mind replayed scenarios: the laughter, the tears, the heavy silences. She felt a surge of determination. She would be there for them, no matter how hard it got. Dressed and ready, she grabbed the invitation stack and headed out. The small community center buzzed with the morning energy of people preparing for the day's events. She stepped inside, the upbeat rhythm of conversations echoing around her like the warm sun of early spring. Setting her eyes on the circle of empty chairs, she was struck by a wave of both excitement and apprehension. James arrived shortly after, his presence like an anchor. He fixed his tie, giving her a nod of reassurance. "You ready?" he asked, his voice steady. "More than ever," she replied, forcing a smile. As the meeting time approached, a small crowd tricked in, a mix of veterans, some hesitant, some eager. The atmosphere shifted. Each face told a different story. Emily's heart raced as she observed them exchanging uncertain glances. She exchanged anxious looks with James, and the two of them stepped near the center of the room, inviting everyone to sit. "Thank you all for coming," Emily started, her voice wavering but resolute. "Today, we're here to create a safe space where we can share our stories, your stories. This is a place where every experience counts." The veterans leaned in, some nodding, others fidgeting, unsure of their willingness to share. James stepped in, sharing his uncle's story, illustrating the battle fought both overseas and upon return. His words hung in the air, and a ripple of understanding coursed through the room. Emily watched as some veterans softened, their expressions shifting to empathy. Encouraged, Emily decided to venture further. "I have a friend who struggles every day with her past, just like many of you do. She feels alone in her battles, and I can't help but wonder how many others feel the same." The room fell quiet. It was palpable, that invisible thread tugging at emotions. Then, from the back, a woman finally spoke. "I lost my brother in combat. No one talks about that." A hush enveloped the room as everyone turned to face her. With tears brimming, she continued, "I don't want his memory to fade. I want to honor his struggle." Her voice was raw, exposing a wound that never healed. With her words, she bravely opened the floodgates. One by one, others joined in, each adding to the tapestry of their experiences, weaving together stories of loss, survival, and hope. Emily felt her chest tighten, joy and sorrow mixing within her. This was it. They were building a bridge. After a robust hour of sharing, as stories mingled and the emotions pulsed in the room like a living entity, Emily stood stunned by the connections that had formed. She realized how meaningful these moments had been, not just for the veterans, but for her and James as well. They were fostering something impactful. As the meeting wrapped up with a collective sigh of relief, Emily looked around, hearts touched and minds opening, feeling that these brave souls might just start their healing journey. But as the veterans drifted away, her mind raced with thoughts of what could be next. Would they continue meeting like this? And what other surprises awaited them as they dug deeper into these shared truths? A quiet voice from behind jolted her back into the moment. "You did it. You really did," James said, pride shining in his eyes, but there was something more, a shadow of uncertainty lurking beneath. "What's next?" Emily asked, her pulse quickening. At that moment, a man in the corner caught her eye, his expression inscrutable. She had seen him keeping to himself during the meeting. Why wasn't he included? What thoughts were hidden behind those guarded eyes? The meeting may have ended, but the journey was just beginning, and it was clear that not all stories had yet been told. What revelation awaited her from that man? Emily felt a deep pull to that man in the corner. Something about his stillness spoke volumes. He was tall, with a rugged face that bore the weight of unspoken burdens, and dark hair that framed his weary eyes. Instead of joining the other veterans, he had sat quietly, almost invisible, yet emanating a presence that felt like a storm brewing beneath the surface. As the crowd dispersed, Emily glanced at James. "I think I need to talk to him," she said, feeling an unexpected sense of urgency. "Are you sure?" James asked, concern flickering in his eyes. "He looks reserved." "Exactly. I want to know why he didn't share," she replied, determination setting in her voice. "His silence might tell us more than any story." James nodded, though there was a note of caution in his demeanor. "I'll be right here if you need me." Taking a deep breath, Emily approached the man, weaving through scattered chairs and fading conversations. She offered a soft smile, trying to ease the tension in the air. "Hi there, I'm Emily. I noticed you during the meeting. I just wanted to check in." His eyes flickered up, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. "James," he replied. His voice was low, gravelly, and yet there was a warmth beneath it. "James," she repeated, seeking to create a connection. "I'd love to hear your story, if you're comfortable sharing. I think everyone has something important to say." He let out a small, humorless chuckle. "People don't want to hear mine." "Why not?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Everyone's experiences matter." He hesitated, glancing at the doorway where the rest of the veterans had filed out. "I've been home for a long time," he murmured, looking distant, as if lost in memories. "Some battles never end. And some stories, well, they're just too heavy to carry out loud." Emily's heart ached for him. "I know it can be tough," she said gently. "But sometimes, sharing can lighten the load." James's eyes bore into hers, searching for sincerity. "And what if sharing only adds to the hurt?" Feeling the weight of his words, Emily took a step closer. "Maybe. But it might also bring peace. There's something powerful about not facing these feelings alone." He fidgeted, the shadows dancing across his face as he wrestled with inner turmoil. "Finally," he said, "I lost my best friend out there. I couldn't save him. I don't know how to talk about that." Emily felt the silence hang between them, thick and heavy. "You're not alone in this," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're trying to build a space where sharing is safe. It's a step towards healing." For a moment, a flicker of hope lit up his features. He didn't smile, but there was something softer there, an invitation to continue the conversation. This was the breakthrough she had hoped for. "Maybe I'll give it a shot," he finally said, the weight of his admission hanging in the air like a promise yet to be fulfilled. Just then, a chatter from behind them drew her attention, pulling her gaze. A veteran named Gerald, who had shared a poignant story of loss earlier, was discussing a follow-up meeting. "Next week, Emily," Gerald called out, excitement lacing his voice. "Let us do this again. We need to keep these conversations going." The energy in the room surged as more veterans chimed in, nodding in agreement. Slowly, momentum was building, and Emily felt her pulse quicken in response. She turned back to James, feeling a burst of inspiration. "We can make this a regular thing," she said, determination flooding her. "Create a support circle." "I believe in this," James replied, his eyes shining with confidence. But just as she began to envision how profound this could become, James caught sight of an unfamiliar figure slipping through the door. A tall woman, her presence exuding authority, paused just long enough to lock eyes with him. She wore a military emblem on her jacket, and in that moment, curiosity twisted in the air. Who was she? What did her arrival mean for their plans? Emily felt a rush of anticipation. This new chapter was about to unfold in ways they never imagined. What connection did the woman have with James, and how would it change everything they had worked towards? The atmosphere shifted as the tall woman stepped fully into the room. Emily felt the air grow taut with tension, and a sense of foreboding crept in. She wasn't just any veteran, the way she carried herself spoke of authority. James's expression hardened, and he instinctively took a step back, retreating into his own shell once more. "Hi there, James," the woman said, a mixture of warmth and command in her voice. "We need to talk." The familiar way she spoke his name ignited concern within Emily. Who was she to him? The connections began to weave an intricate web in Emily's mind, raising visions of past battles, secrets, and memories unshared. James's gaze dropped to the floor, his earlier spark of hope extinguished. "What are you doing here, Rebecca?" he asked, the name heavy and unyielding on his tongue. "Things have changed since you've been away," she replied, her tone maintaining that balance of softness while cutting deeper than any blade. "The unit needs you. We need to talk about the way forward." Emily felt the stirring tide of James's internal storm. She could see it in his clenched fists and the twitch of muscle in his jaw. "I'm done with that part of my life," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, yet it rang with finality. Rebecca's eyes softened slightly, looking past the layers of anger and hurt. "You cannot outrun the past, James. You said everyone needs to heal. Well, you're not healing if you hide from the truth." Emily's heart raced. This was the moment James had been avoiding. Her hands felt clammy, but she knew she had to say something. "He's not hiding, Rebecca. He's trying to find a way to move forward," she interjected, her voice firm yet gentle. Rebecca turned her gaze to Emily, and for a heartbeat, the dialogue hung in the air, a battle of wills, a clash of perspectives. Sometimes healing requires facing the worst parts of ourselves. "He can't do that alone," the woman said, her focus shifting back to James. Emily saw the glimmer of tears begin to pool in his eyes. It was a vulnerability that he had shown her moments ago, but now it teetered on the precipice of surrender. "James, this could help," Emily urged him softly. "You've built a wall to keep everyone out. But it's okay to let people in, even if it's hard." Silence fell once more, heavy and almost suffocating. The room felt like it was shrinking. James's breath quickened, and Emily could see the struggle within him, an epic battle raging where honor clashed with shame. Rebecca stepped forward, grounding her emotional appeal. "You don't have to face this alone," she said, her voice dropping to a comforting tone. "We've lost too many, we need you back." James's defenses cracked just a bit, and Emily felt a surge of hope. But then Rebecca added, "It's time to deal with this, James. Time to stand up for what you owe the ones who didn't make it back." A storm brewed in his eyes. This was the real push, and Emily felt a flicker of fear as well. What if this was too much too soon? Just then, the door swung open again, and in walked a group of veterans, laughter spilling out behind them like water rushing from a dam. The intrusion of joy shattered the heavy moment, and the sound swirled around like a beacon of light. But as the group paired off, chatting and reliving their stories, James remained rooted, caught between two worlds. Emily glanced back at Rebecca, a question swirling in her mind. Was this the right time for James to confront his past? Or would it push him away when he needed to lean in? James hesitated, his gaze alternating from Rebecca to the laughter behind him. The moment felt electric, charged with potential and fear. Emily took a breath, aware that every second counted. "James?" she prompted softly, feeling the weight of their shared journey on her shoulders. "What do you want?" The air thickened once more, and all eyes turned to him, waiting. The answer he gave could redefine everything. As the laughter echoed behind him, James felt suspended between the past and the present, the weight of expectations pressing hard against his chest. He looked at Rebecca, who stood steady, waiting, and then at the new group of veterans whose energy radiated hope. In that moment, he realized he had a choice to make, one that could shape not only his future but also the lives of countless others. I want to be better, James finally said, his voice a mix of determination and vulnerability. I want to let go of the guilt that has haunted me for so long. I want to honor the ones we lost by living a life that matters. A ripple of understanding moved through the crowd. For Emily, it felt like she had struck gold. Every word he spoke echoed in the hearts of those around them. She felt a comforting warmth wash over her as if they had all exchanged a silent promise to rise together. That's the first step, Rebecca replied, her tone softening. It takes courage to admit that. Let us help each other find a way forward. Emily stepped closer, her heart racing with hope. You're not alone, James. We all want to help you. We need your voice, your story. Together, we can create something powerful, something that honors the struggle and sacrifice of so many. Standing together in that community center, their eyes met, a silent understanding formed between them. The spark ignited with a blend of an imminent future and pain, led the way for healing as a community. Surrounding voices echoed back to life, but they were no longer just sounds. They held meaning, potential, and the promise of change. Let us start a project together, James, Emily suggested. Let us talk to the veterans about what they need: resources, programs, anything to support them. We can build a real network that voices their experiences and helps rebuild lives. James nodded slowly, and a tentative smile began to form on his lips, the first semblance of hope emerging from the shadows. I want to be part of that. I want to stand with every one of you, he said, looking around the room at the veterans who had quietly fought their own battles. The room erupted in applause, an outpour of support that shook the walls. Emily felt tears well in her eyes as she absorbed the collective belief around her. They were finally stepping toward something meaningful. With renewed vigor, Emily organized a brief huddle. The vibrant buzz of enthusiasm swept through the group as they began to share ideas for future meetings. They tossed around thoughts of workshops, support groups, and community outreach events that would bring awareness to veterans' needs. I want stories, Emily declared. Everyone has a truth that deserves to be heard. Let us create a platform where they can share their journeys. That notion resonated. They discussed establishing a website where veterans could share their experiences, a safe space for not only storytelling but also connecting with resources. A community united, a veteran from the back murmured, voice laced with hope. Yes. Emily replied, feeling the surge of a dream taking flight. Together, we can impact this town and beyond. As the discussions flowed, Rebecca stood back, observing the evolution of this moment. She felt a warmth blossom in her heart. James had chosen to embrace the love and camaraderie, and she knew that healing was no longer just a distant goal but an immediate possibility. Emily glanced at James from time to time through the meeting, and she could see the light in his eyes begin to brighten. Each new idea brought him closer to acceptance, to healing. He shared his fear of the past but intertwined it with how their newfound group could transform that fear into strength. Days turned into weeks, and the following community meeting brought a diverse crowd. Veterans poured in with stories etched on their hearts. The atmosphere was electric, filled with voices that had long been stifled, and as they united, Emily felt the momentum building. The walls of the community center pulsated with vibrant energy, wrapping around them like a protective embrace. And as whispers of this community spread, more and more members of Maplewood began reaching out, families and friends seeking to understand, to support, and to bridge the gap. Slowly but surely, they were crafting a family forged in shared experience and empathy. One evening, a bright and distinguished gentleman walked in, one of those veterans who had made it back from war but returned carrying stories of honor and deep struggles. All eyes turned to him as he stood before the crowd and revealed that he was a mentor, willing to take under his wing anyone wanting to work through the complexities of war experiences. "Thank you for letting me share," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "This is just the start. There's strength in asking for help and allowing vulnerability to guide us." The applause that followed echoed in the hearts of every person present. Emily felt her chest swell. Indeed, they had designed a genuine transformation, not just for veterans but for everyone involved. The journey wasn't easy, but she knew they would learn, lean on one another, and keep building something extraordinary. Months passed, and with each event, they expanded their reach, creating a ripple of influence and healing that resonated well beyond the walls of their town. Emily and James had become partners not just in purpose but in spirit, a friendship rooted in resilience, understanding, and a shared mission of hope. And as Emily looked out at the community they had built that night, faces lit with laughter, tears of healing streaming freely, she understood that this was just the beginning. They were taking the difficult path, but together, they had forged an unbreakable bond that could weather any storm. The laughter rang out like a sweet melody, and Emily took a deep breath of gratitude. They had truly changed their lives, and now they were changing others. Together, they had written the first chapters of a powerful story, a story of hope, respect, and transformation. It was time for the world to hear it. You need to subscribe now to follow along on this transformative journey. This is the moment to show your support by leaving a like to feed the algorithm. We want to hear your thoughts, comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this remarkable transformation.